If you really stop and think about it for a second, what if the voice inside your head, like the one narrating your commute right now or the one that argues with you in the shower, what if the voice you think is fundamentally you is actually just, well, a complete imposter?
It is a profoundly unsettling thought to start with, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we just accept that internal monologue as our baseline reality.
Right. We never even question it.
Exactly. You never question the narrator. But if you actually put that voice under a microscope and look at its mechanics, the entire structure of who we think we are starts to look incredibly alien.
And that is our exact mission for today's deep dive. We are exploring the teachings of Acharya Prashant, specifically focusing on his breakdown of the mind and the ego, or what the texts refer to as the Esim.
Yes, the Esim.
Our goal today is to completely deconstruct how that I is formed in the first place, figure out why our own thoughts are so incredibly good at torturing us, and, well, arrive at a realization that honestly shifted my entire perspective, which is, you are not your mind.
I know that sounds heavy to anyone listening right now. Deconstructing the ego, questioning the literal voice in your head. It sounds like we're threatening to dismantle the foundation of your daily life.
It really does. It sounds terrifying.
But the reality is, this framework is actually the ultimate shortcut to mental freedom. So I invite you to just settle in, maybe lower your defenses for a bit, keep an open mind, and prepare to deeply question your own inner monologue.
Okay, let's unpack this. The sources describe our reality as being split into two entirely distinct worlds. There is the physical world, which is, obvious.
Right, the tangible stuff.
Yeah, it's the room you're sitting in, the steering wheel you might be holding. We all occupy physical space. But then there is the Chitakasha.
The Chitakasha.
Yeah.
The vast, internal, purely mental space.
And the sheer scale of this inner universe is what really caught me off guard. Like, the text uses this vivid example. Imagine you are sitting completely physically still for an hour.
Just zero movement.
Right. Your body hasn't moved a single centimeter. But in that exact same hour, think about where your mind has been. It has traveled hundreds of kilometers.
Oh, absolutely.
You visited your childhood home, you wandered through a busy market, you stopped at a sweet shop, or maybe you completely zoned out and took a quick trip to the planet Jupiter.
Right, it's boundless.
There's an entire separate hyperactive universe running constantly on the inside.
And if we look closely at that internal universe, we have to ask what grounds all of this mental time travel? Like, what is the gravity holding that solar system together?
The sun at the center of it all.
Precisely. At the absolute center of every single one of those thoughts, every trip to the market, every memory of your childhood, every imaginary trip to Jupiter sits the I, the ego.
Now, hold on. I struggle to accept that this is inherently a bad thing. I mean, isn't it just biologically normal to think about ourselves?
It feels normal, sure.
Like, it's my brain, it's my life experience, so of course I'm the main character in the story playing in my head.
It feels completely normal, yes. But we have to analyze why the I demands to be the main character. The teachings point out that this I is fundamentally driven by a deep, terrifying incompleteness.
Incompleteness.
Yeah, it operates like a void that is constantly, desperately trying to make itself whole. Because the I feels hollow, every single thought, every emotional reaction is rooted in an inescapable selfishness.
Wow.
It is always scanning the horizon, looking for something outside to consume and fill the hole inside.
So you're saying the center of my mental universe is basically just a black hole of selfishness?
Essentially, yes. And because of that gravitational pull, we only actually like things or people that serve our I. The text gives a really brutal but honestly painfully accurate example to illustrate this.
Oh, the family example. That one hit hard.
Right. Think about a family unit. Think about how a family treats a member who is in their prime, earning money and bringing in resources.
They're practically treated like royalty.
Exactly. That person commands immense respect. Everyone in the house defers to them because they are providing utility.
I mean, they are the anchor of the household. Everyone is dependent on them for survival, basically.
Now, fast forward a few decades. Contrast that dynamic with how that exact same family often views that exact same person when they become old, frail, and sick.
Yeah.
When they lose that economic and protective utility. Now, they require daily intensive care. Someone has to administer their medication, bathe them, help them use the toilet.
It's a complete shift.
It is. The family looks at them through a completely different, often burdensome lens.
If you're listening to this right now and feeling defensive, because I know I was when I first read it, it's a tough pill to swallow, I immediately wanted to say, no, I love my family unconditionally.
There's a very natural reaction to feel defensive there.
But you really can't deny the underlying truth of that example. The actual human being hasn't changed, but their usefulness to the eye of the other family members has changed drastically.
And that discomfort you're feeling, that is the ego being exposed. We are magnetically drawn to what is useful to us, to what patches over our own internal void.
Makes sense.
When the utility stops, the affection often shifts or stops entirely. That is the raw, unfiltered nature of the I sitting at the center of the Chitakasha.
So if we are just talking black holes of selfishness driven entirely by utility, is that what makes the mind impure? Because, growing up, we are always taught about striving for a pure mind versus having a dirty or impure mind.
What's fascinating here is how the source material completely dismantles our traditional societal idea of morality.
Thank goodness, because the traditional idea is so exhausting.
Right. When society hears the word impure, we immediately default to arbitrary rules of right and wrong, or thinking socially unacceptable thoughts. But the text argues that has nothing to do with true purity.
The definition they offer is so much more practical and, frankly, a lot less judgmental.
It is entirely mechanical. An impure thought is strictly defined as a thought that is harmful to the person thinking it. That is the entire criteria.
I was reading the part about the poison tea, and at first it sounded a bit dramatic, but then I realized how perfectly it explains this mechanism.
It's a brilliant analogy.
Imagine you have a fresh glass of sugarcane juice. Now you add some salt to it, or turmeric, or, let's get weird, you add some crushed stone.
Okay, weird, but sure.
Technically, that juice is no longer chemically pure. There are impurities floating in it.
But you wouldn't label it a dangerous or fatal impurity.
Right. It might taste terrible. It might feel gritty in your teeth, but drinking it isn't going to end your life. But take a normal cup of tea and add just one tiny microscopic drop of lethal poison to it.
That changes everything.
Exactly. That represents a massive catastrophic impurity. Why? Because the poison actively destroys the vessel it enters. It harms you.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you start to see the trap of fake societal morality. Culture constantly preaches that lust, anger, greed, fear, and jealousy are bad or impure thoughts. We are lectured about it constantly.
Constantly, from childhood onwards.
But human beings stay endlessly trapped in those cycles anyway. Why? Because simply slapping a moral label on a feeling, just calling it dirty, doesn't actually change human behavior.
It's just lip service. We nod and say, oh yes, anger is a destructive emotion, while secretly boiling with rage at someone who cut us off in traffic.
Right.
Because in that moment, the anger feels justified. It feels like a shield.
And that is the crux of it. A moral label has zero power to rewrite your internal programming. A person will only drop a habit or a thought pattern when they truly, clearly see that it is destroying them.
When they realize they are willingly drinking poison tea.
Yes. The text makes a profound underlying point here. Every single human being inherently wants their own well-being, period.
The source even tackles a really extreme example to prove this point, which is suicide.
It does, yeah.
It explicitly states that even a person who takes their own life is doing it because the pain of their current existence is so unbearable, they falsely believe ending it will bring them relief.
It's a tragic distortion of that survival drive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even in that tragic extreme act, the fundamental biological drive is a desperate search for well-being and relief from pain.
We will always, without exception, choose what we perceive to be the path to our own relief. So as long as you don't actually see that your greed or your jealousy is acting as poison.
As long as you think it's helping you.
Right. As long as you think it's just a technically bad habit that is secretly serving you or protecting you, you will never let it go. You will fiercely hold on to the I and its desires.
Wow.
True purity isn't about following a religious or societal rule book. It's about recognizing self-harm for what it is and dropping it instantly.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. I have to ask the logical next question.
Go for it.
If we all deeply, fundamentally want our own well-being, like if our entire operating system is wired to seek relief and avoid pain, why did nature build us this way? Why is this inner I constantly generating these self-harming, poisonous thoughts?
Where does the glitch come from?
Yeah, where does this self-destructive I even come from in the first place?
To understand why the beast tortures itself, you have to look closely at how the beast is built. The text breaks down the origin of the I into two foundational pillars: biological instinct and societal conditioning.
Okay, let's start with the biology. What the text calls ahamvriti, or the I tendency, because this isn't something you learn in school.
Not at all.
It is baked into the hardware before you even open your eyes. The teachings point out that this tendency is present the moment a baby is born, and possibly even while it's still developing in the womb.
It represents the absolute lowest, most primal level of physical existence.
Think about a newborn baby, maybe just 24 hours old. They don't know a single word of language. They don't know their own name. They don't know what a society is.
They are a blank slate mentally.
But they already possess this ahamvriti. The source gives an example that blew my mind. Imagine that baby lying on a bed. If you hit the wooden table next to the baby doesn't react.
Right, the table is not the baby.
The table is hit, the table makes a sound, but the baby does not care. However, if you gently tap that baby's cheek, it immediately starts crying.
Which demonstrates something incredibly sophisticated for a one-day-old organism.
Yes, it proves that the baby already knows with absolute certainty where I end and where the world begins. It has already drawn a rigid boundary around its physical form.
It knows what is me and what is not me.
And it instinctively knows how to root for milk from its mother without anyone handing it a training manual. At this stage, the I is purely 100% physical. The baby's entire worldview can be summed up as, I am this physical body, and my mother is a separate physical body that provides resources.
And as the teachings note, this physical identification is purely animalistic. It is raw, unadulterated survival instinct. But crucially, it is the initial seed of the ego.
The seed.
Yes, it is the blank canvas that society is about to paint on.
So we start with this raw physical survival seed, and then as we grow, society steps in and basically starts throwing fertilizer on that seed.
Oh, tons of it.
The baby learns to associate internal physical sensations with the external I, like I feel a drop in blood sugar, therefore I am hungry, therefore I must cry to manipulate my environment. And then the family starts layering on the abstract labels.
This is exactly where the psychological mechanism of conditioning takes over. The survival instinct gets completely hijacked.
The parents say, you are a Hindu, or you are a Christian, or you are a Muslim. The neighborhood, the clothing stores, the toy marketing, they all start carving the child up into categories.
Slicing up their identity.
They say you are a boy, which means you wear these specific colors and play with these aggressive toys, or you are a girl, so you get these different clothes, a different name, and different behavioral expectations.
It's relentless.
Layer by abstract layer, society is adding massive psychological weight to that original, tiny, physical survival instinct.
And we have to ask how the brain accepts this so easily. Well, the animal brain learns that fitting into these societal labels secures love, protection, and resources.
Oh, that makes sense.
In a forest, a resource is a berry bush. In human society, a resource is a religious identity, a gender role, or a promotion. And if we track this all the way into adulthood, you see the creation of what the text so vividly calls the swollen animal.
The swollen animal, what a phrase.
It's perfect. The person goes through life hoarding more and more labels to secure their survival. They get good grades, and suddenly the identity inflates to, I am a topper. They find a partner. I am handsome.
I am a CEO.
Exactly. They climb the corporate ladder. I am rich. I am respected.
The I just balloons out of control. My resume, my credit score, my political affiliation, they all just become extensions of that baby crying when its cheek is tapped. It swells into this massive, incredibly fragile identity.
It does. But, and this is the absolute crucial point, the source drives home underneath all those sophisticated societal labels, underneath the expensive tailored suit and the advanced college degrees, it is still just that blind, physical, animalistic instinct.
It's just wearing a disguise.
Exactly. The core mechanism hasn't evolved one bit. It is just swollen up with abstract concepts.
So what does this all mean for us? Are we really just animals walking around with better clothes and smartphones? Because if we were simply swollen animals operating on biology and societal programming, why are we so universally miserable?
That is the essential mystery we have to solve here. Because if you look at actual animals in nature, deer, lions, stray cats, dogs, and they operate entirely on this exact same physical I. They are completely driven by the biological I am Briti.
Right. A cat just wants to find a food source, locate a warm patch of sunlight to sleep in, and eventually find a mate to pass on its genes.
Precisely. But the vital difference is this. An animal's thoughts are not harmful to it.
Really?
Yeah. A cat is perfectly content simply living a cat's life. It isn't experiencing a midlife existential crisis. It isn't lying awake at 3 a.m. worrying about its legacy or feeling a crushing sense of inadequacy because it isn't as wealthy as the cat living next door.
The cat isn't drinking the poison tea, it's just drinking water.
This raises an important question, maybe the most important question of this entire deep dive. If biological animals are perfectly fine operating on this physical I, why are human thoughts so uniquely harmful to humans?
Yeah, what went wrong with us?
Why are we the only species on the planet torturing ourselves with the contents of our own Chitakasha?
And the source material provides a deeply philosophical, almost breathtaking answer for this. It reveals the one key differentiator between us and the rest of the animal kingdom.
And it's not our thumbs.
No.
No.
Yes, on the surface, we are operating with those exact same animal instincts.
Right.
We want food, sleep, mating rights, and territory, but deep down, underneath all of that biological machinery, human beings possess booty.
Booty. Pure intelligence. Awareness.
Yes. And with that booty comes a dormant, profound, unshakable longing for mukti.
Mukti. True liberation. Spiritual freedom.
We have this deep, agonizing longing to be free, to transcend the rigid physical limitations of the animal body. But here is the impossible squeeze we find ourselves in. We are trying to satisfy a craving for infinite spiritual liberation using basic, finite animal tools.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this mismatch is the literal definition of the human condition.
We feel this deep, echoing emptiness inside us, this longing for mukti, and our swollen animal brain, which only knows how to hunt and gather, says, oh, I know how to fix this feeling of emptiness. Let's eat more luxurious food.
Let's buy a boat.
Right. Let's sleep in a bigger house. Let's acquire more social status, more money, more territory. But it never, ever works. You cannot satisfy a spiritual hunger with a physical sandwich.
It is a profound, tragic mismatch. We are using the primitive machinery of a beast to try and reach the divine. And because the animal tools can never by definition achieve spiritual liberation, the ego panics.
It freaks out.
We just keep acquiring, keep grasping, keep fiercely defending our swollen identities in the desperate hope that the next promotion or the next relationship will finally bring us peace.
But it's a treadmill.
It's an endless, futile cycle of grasping and failing. And that is exactly why our thoughts become toxic. That is the literal mechanism of why our minds torture us.
We are quite literally tearing ourselves apart from the inside out because we are caught in a tug of war between the biology of a beast and the longing of a god.
Wow. Yes.
It's devastating to realize, but it makes so much sense of our daily anxiety.
It illuminates everything. And this brings the entire framework full circle to the ultimate question posed by Acharya Prashant's teachings.
Which is,
if the mind is just this impure, swollen animal torturing itself in the Chitakasha, then what is the soul? What is the Atma?
right. If I am not my mind, if I am not my resume or my biological urges, what actually am I?
According to the text, the Atma is not some glowing orb of light or a dense, unreachable philosophical concept. The Atma is simply the complete zeroing out of this I.
Just completely wiping the slate.
It is the total purification of the mind. When you stop identifying with the swollen animal, when you finally stop trying to cure your spiritual longing by accumulating physical and social things, the I dissolves.
It just disappears.
It loses its gravity. And what remains, perfectly still and free from self-harming thoughts, is the true self.
Zeroing out the I. Dropping the poison tea. Wow. Thank you so much for joining us on this intense philosophical journey today.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
We have covered massive ground, from the sprawling inner universe of the Chitakasha to the biological and societal origins of our egos. But if there is one core insight you take away from this exploration, let it be this reminder: you are not your mind.
Such an important reminder.
You do not have to believe every panic, selfish thought that imposter voice tells you.
It takes immense practice to observe the mind, rather than being instantly consumed by it. But recognizing the mechanical nature of the I is the first, most vital step toward that mukti, toward liberation.
Absolutely. And to leave you with a final provocative thought to ponder as you go about the rest of your day. Next time you feel anxious or suddenly angry or weirdly defensive about a comment someone makes today, just pause.
Just take a breath.
Take a physical breath and ask yourself, which part of my swollen animal ego is desperately trying to protect itself right now? Note the artificial boundary you've drawn around your identity, just like the newborn baby crying at the tap on the cheek, and see what actually happens if you just let it go.